hour mark. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. Scott, do you want to take the floor? Tell us about yourself and Fusion.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to see all of you and get to meet all of you. I'm Scott Fuller. I'm the new director of admissions at Fusion Academy Galleria. Get the opportunity of representing Fusion. I'm sure a lot of you know about Fusion, but if you don't, we're a one student to one teacher student-based, one teacher to one student-based learning for grades 6 through 12. We really focus on personalizing the education of those students, offer rolling admissions so we can take students anytime throughout the year. And we're open through the summer. So right now we're making a big push for our summer program to let you know that, hey, we take students all year. There's no gap in the summer for us. And yeah, just really look forward to getting to know all of you and about your practice and about what you do and what you specialize in, and just any way that I can and we can partner with you. So yeah, that's me. Julie, you want to?
Or yours, Julie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Pomerantz. I'm with the Hub Houston. Hub is an acronym for Heard, Understood, Believed in, and we have several different campuses. We do have a very small school for ages 13 through 18, and then we have 3 different young adult programs for ages 18 and over. A couple of them are based on employability, and one of them is a social club that meets 3 nights a week called Club Hub. Our population covers those on the autism spectrum, all the way from emergent learners through very high functioning. We also have, so just a real variety of population. I have to apologize in advance to you guys because I have to hop off at about 12:25. I have a family coming in for a tour, but I'll be tuning in until then.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I'm Alexandra Roark. I'm a therapist here at Houston Neuroscience Brain Center. I'm here with Dr. Swatzyna. And here at the Brain Center, we offer EEGs. We have a team of neurologists who look at these EEG reports and can look for brain patterns that can account for symptoms of anxiety, attention issues, depression, brain injury, the list goes on. And then we can take those reports and we can create an individualized treatment plan that can include neurofeedback therapy, which is brain training, red light therapy for the brain, talk therapy. And we have an open house coming up on April 6th. That's Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. where you can come in and see demonstrations of our services.
Is it called an open house today?
Oh, we're not calling it an open house. We're calling it Coffee and Connection because it's more than just an open house. We're wanting to have everyone come and meet with professionals, and we want families to come in and learn more about the opportunities of neurofeedback therapy and EEG services. We're going to have, I remember there's going to be coffee and tacos, breakfast tacos.
Oh,
So please join us. We have that coming up. And then also before we get started, I want to talk about our next discussions with Dr. Ron. That's going to be on Wednesday, April the 17th. From the same time, 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to talk about the neuroscience of autism for Autism Awareness Month. So mark your calendars. We will be recording this and be uploading it to our Houston Neuroscience Brain Center YouTube channel, and a link will be sent out to everyone today.
and just for Scott's benefit, I want to be able to expand on what makes us different as a center, and that's because we are so buried in research. It's incredible amount, incredibly important to do clinical research, and that's one thing that's been very lacking in our society, in our world. Actually, nobody has. There's no funding for clinical research. There's no funding for the publications or presentations. So a lot of people just don't want to get wrapped up into it. But I've been passionate about it. For our first publication was 2008, and it's grown quite exponentially since then. The discoveries we've made, Like I was saying earlier, I just got back from Bahrain. I was invited over to, the medical director is from India. His father was not doing that well, so the family brought me over there to set up a program with the hyperbaric oxygen. We did the first hyperbaric oxygen combined with neurofeedback session ever. And so now we're going to be starting to do some research over there in regard to that. And it's really growing. So I'm setting up these programs in different countries right now to try to get this expanded. The United States is kind of behind the ball because they're so driven by big pharma, makes it very difficult to, they don't want this in here, but other countries see the benefits and starting to jump on it. And I'm going Friday up to almost at spring at 1960 and 45 to a hospital up there that's going to set up a program for veterans doing hyperbaric oxygen. And I'm working with them to do the research out of that and to see if we can help our vets at a higher level than what they're being helped right now. So I just want to add that to it. We are a neuroscience center. We do a lot of research out of here. So Miss Pam, I see you made it. We're ready for you. You got the floor. You're muted, Pam.
There. Sorry to be late. My eye appointment took forever. What's new? I'm Pam Esser. I'm director of ATA Southern Region, which is the Attention Deficit Disorders Association Southern Region. We do free virtual support groups and workshops, which have been all virtual, but we're excited that on April 20th, we are having our first in-person, and it's going to be neuroscience for the neurodiverse. And Ron's going to be there as a vendor. So we're very excited about it. I'm going to drop the flyer in the chat and, check us out. We have an awful lot of really great support group topics. Dr. Ron's did one a month ago on teens and depression that was very interesting. So we're small, but we're mighty, and we have some really good people sharing presentations. So glad to be here.
Did you say that was where that was going to be done at
Monarch.
Oh, it's at Monarch School.
If you guys haven't been there, they've got a great place to set up, present like this. Is quite a fascinating school. It's
Yes, it is.
pretty amazing. And I hope we can get the people down the street from Parrish to attend as well.
That would be great.
You know, we need to talk to them personally, give them personal invitation because we're
Yes,
just
yes.
blocks away almost. There's in the city of Houston, there's 19 special schools. They got the Special School Coalition, so they do a lot of work with autism, and I think that's something really fascinating that we need to follow up with and to fully support them and help them any way we can. Okay, Alexandra, it's yours.
Okay, well, I'm really excited about this topic that we're going to talk about today. This one here. Okay, let me minimize this as well so I can see most of the screen. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming unhelpful thinking, and we're going to talk about how to transform your mindset. And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about today is our automatic negative thoughts. This is something that everyone experiences. This is sometimes not talked about enough. And so sometimes people can feel very alone or feel ashamed about the certain thoughts that pop up. And they don't really understand just that thoughts are automatic and thoughts can lie to us. We all have these crazy out there intrusive thoughts, and it doesn't mean it's a reflection of us. It's just how our brains work. And so we don't have to listen to every single thought. We don't have to take it as a fact and internalize it.
I just want to add one thing here. Before I became a therapist, I didn't know other people didn't think like I did. Okay, we get and start to learn some of these things that what we think is just normal thoughts, we don't realize are automatic negative thoughts that are adding to our anxiety. So again, if you only live in your tiny little bubble of your own head, sometimes you just don't know that.
That's true. And that's why it is good to have a support group of people that you feel safe talking to. And then as a parent, allowing that safe space for your kids so they can come and talk about how they're thinking and how that's making them feel. Because as you can see over here, I added this little graphic where thoughts create feelings and feelings create behaviors, and then behaviors reinforce our thoughts, and we can get stuck in this cycle loop. And so today we're going to talk about how we can break that cycle loop so that we can live a more optimal life and have more disciplined minds. But a lot of people ask, where these automatic negative thoughts come from. And this can be from your genetic code. Things that happen in previous generations get passed down. Trauma, changes the genetics, it changes how your brain works, and that gets passed down. Thoughts can also come from what has been said to you. It is extremely important how we choose to talk to other people and talk to our kids, our students, because words have so much power. And even if you say, oh, it was just a joke, oh, they're just sensitive, these things, even if you're saying it in a joking way, can be internalized in others. And so what things have been said to us get ingrained in us and then goes into our subconscious thoughts, and then will come out through behaviors. But our thoughts can also come from what we consume, the news, music, TV shows. All of that stuff has a huge influence on what kind of automatic thoughts are going to pop up in our brains. So one way we can learn more about our thoughts is understanding what unhelpful thinking styles are. If we have this knowledge, we can use it to our power. And so if we can understand what these styles are, we can catch ourselves whenever we're in these unhelpful thinking styles and be like, okay, no, this is an unhelpful thinking style. I need to stop. Let me think of another way to think about this. And so here are some examples. We're just going to go through them together. The first one is personalization. And this is where you're blaming yourself or taking responsibility for something that wasn't completely your fault. Or if you blame other people for something that was your fault. So this is something that we can catch ourselves in all the time. It's sometimes whenever we're trying to protect our ego, our pride, we try to put the blame on someone else, so that we don't feel as hurt or feeling shame. People can also be overgeneralizing with their thoughts. They can use words like everything or nothing, like all of my friends hate me. Every day of school is the worst. It's going to be like this forever. There's also the shoulda, coulda, woulda, or must, it's like, I should have done this. I should have done that. But in reality, that's not a helpful thinking style, because what is that going to do? We can't go back and we can't change the past. The disqualifying the positive is where you're discounting all the good things that have happened, and just focusing on the bad. There can be one bad thing that happened that day. There could have been 10 times as many positive moments, but that one bad thing is just going to overshadow everything else. Like, none of those count because this thing happened. And so now I'm going to be stuck in this mood because this one bad thing happened. There's also catastrophizing, which is, I feel like this one is something that I catch myself in all the time. My brain just wants to be a drama queen. But this is where you're making mountains out of molehills. You're taking a situation and your brain is just exploding it. Or on the other side here, it's mentioning minimization too. There's emotional reasoning, assuming that because we feel a certain way that it must be true. Our feelings are not facts either. Our feelings are there to, tell us more about ourselves, how we feel about a situation, but just because we feel that way, it doesn't mean that it's true. Black or white thinking is another really, really common one. All or nothing thinking is another term for it. Where you can't see the gray in a situation, it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. And this one I see a lot with kids with homework. It's like if they, feel like they don't have, if like with my teens, if they want to sit down and they're like, oh, well, if I can't do my whole project right now, if I don't have enough time to do my project, then I'm just not going to do anything at all. When in reality, that's not really helpful. Like if we can break things down and say, okay, I have 30 minutes, I can at least get through the first paragraph, then it doesn't seem as overwhelming and you can do it. It's like working with the grade. Labeling, assigning labels to ourselves or other people, that's not helpful if we're going to call ourselves stupid, if we're, going to say like, oh, I'm such an idiot. We really internalize those things and our brain is going to hold on to that, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. And the last one is jumping to conclusions. Imagining that we know what other people are thinking, assuming that something is going to happen, trying to read into the future. I mean, this is a way that our brain is trying to protect us. We can see this in a lot of people with anxiety, overthinking. Your brain is trying to help you, but in reality, it's not very helpful because we're just making assumptions that we could spend so much time in the world going through all the different scenarios. And then we're just wasting all this time that we could put into other more productive things. So if you notice yourself in any of these unhelpful thinking styles, sometimes just putting a label on it helps your brain realize, okay, this isn't helpful. Let me get out of this mode. And then we can talk about some ways in the future to get out of those modes. So next I want to talk about the science behind all the unhelpful thinking styles and the automatic negative thoughts and how that goes into behaviors or feelings in the behaviors. And a lot of this has to do with our reticular activating system, our RAS system. This is a part of our brain. It's a web of nerves that awakens our consciousness when we notice things that align with our beliefs. And so basically all the nerves help us see, hear, and touch, all of the senses except for smell. They come together in the RAS to help us experience the moment we're present in. And so what this RAS system does is it connects our subconscious to our conscious. And we can use this RAS system, like once we know how it works, we can, I call it like a brain hack, we can use it to our advantage. But what it does is whatever we're thinking about in the moment, the RAS system is going to like hyperfixate on all of that stuff. So it's like in this room right now, there are a bunch of blue items, but I'm not noticing them at all until I consciously, intentionally think about it. Like, okay, well, are there any blue items in the room? And all of a sudden, I'm starting to just notice so much blue that wasn't there. And that's because my RAS system is kicking in. This can also be applied to negative things. If we're in a negative mindset, our RAS system is going to just help us focus on all of the negative, where we could potentially disqualify all the positive, like in the unhelpful thinking styles chart. So whenever we're stuck in this mindset, if we have all these worries of like, oh my gosh, is school going to be okay tomorrow? Am I going to do well on this test? When you're asking all these questions that are very open-ended, your RAS system can start to focus on all the negative, maybe like all the times that you failed or all the school days that were bad, even though maybe all the bad school days are very minimal in comparison to how many positive days there were. Because your RAS system is focusing on all the negative, then you're going to thus feel worse. Then you're in the feelings part. And then because you're feeling like it's going to be bad, then that's going to have an impact on your behaviors that are then going to reinforce your thoughts, because then you're likely not going to be on your best like optimal mode, because you're maybe have like an upset stomach because you're anxious, you have brain fog because you're anxious about it. And then, if it's a test situation, then you're not going to perform as well. And then that's going to reinforce the thought of, okay, I'm not good at taking tests or school sucks. So what we can do is learn to be really intentional with our thoughts so that we can help our subconscious mind do the work for us. And then I wanted to talk about setting intentions. And so this is an example of trying to think about how we can use the RAS system to our advantage. So if we look at the first statement, we're saying, I hope to enjoy my dinner tonight. So whenever you have that statement, some feelings that might can come up are uncertainty, questions, maybe your brain goes into that part where it's catastrophizing things. Maybe there's some worries that come up and then you start to hyperfixate on it. Think of all the ways, well, I could enjoy my dinner this way, but maybe I won't enjoy my dinner this way because so-and-so is going to be there, or maybe this such and such topic will come up. So that one leaves some questionability there, and your RAS system can go more into the negative side of things, of focusing in that direction. The next one is, I want to enjoy my dinner tonight. That one might be a little bit better because you're saying I want to, but you still have some uncertainty there. Your RAS system could go the other direction of like, I want to, but what if this happens? So the third one, this one says, I intend to enjoy my dinner tonight. So with this one, when you're setting this intention, you're making a statement that I intend to enjoy my dinner tonight. So now with your RAS system is going to be focused on all the ways that you are going to enjoy your dinner tonight, and you don't have any room for that uncertainty. And so this I got from Chris and Tim Halbum's blog post on the RAS system and setting intentions. If anyone's interested in reading the blog post, I'd be happy to send it to you because it's very useful. And a quote by them, they say, when you set your intent, you are marrying your subconscious mind with your conscious will to make something happen. It is like you are sending your RAS system a message that you are expecting the event to happen, and there's absolutely no room for uncertainty.
One of the examples of that is anything you would like to, if you want a certain car, if you want to buy a certain house, if you want to whatever, sometimes it's good to get a picture of that and focus on it. I really want, I intend to have that house. I intend to have that car. And it's funny how that will make it happen. It sets that in your mind that that's a goal, that's a direction to go. So really good stuff.
That is so true. It is so important. Dr. Amen, I was watching one of his videos this morning on how to have a self-disciplined mind, and having goals and the intentions, like what you're just saying, is a huge, huge part of it. And I know affirmations seem to have are really like a catchy, popular thing that I see in psychology and throughout social media. And there really is science behind affirmations. I think sometimes people can think like, oh, it's kind of like a magical little like kooky thing, but really there is science behind it, because when you're setting affirmations out there, it's basically just like setting these intentions, and your brain is going to follow that, and then it's going to affect your feelings and then your behavior, so it's more likely to happen. So how are some ways we can address the unhelpful thinking? So let's use an example right here. An automatic negative thought is, all my friends hate me. Maybe something happened, you did something embarrassing in front of your friends, and then your brain is just like, they hate me, I know they hate me. Well, we can ask ourselves some questions to talk back to that thought. You could say, is this absolutely true? Is it 100% true? Am I jumping to conclusions? Is there any evidence for or against it? Is there another way to look at it? If my friend was telling me this, what would I say to them? And then we can ask ourselves, what is a more helpful thought? And the new thought would be, not all of my friends hate me. Because Dr. Aiden was talking about this today, and he's saying, yeah, well, we don't want to go completely narcissistic and say like, all my friends love me, but we can know for sure that not all of my friends hate me, because we need to ask ourselves, he was talking about, how do we feel whenever we have this automatic negative thought? What are the feelings that come up whenever I say all my friends hate me? Well, maybe my hands are getting sweaty, I'm getting nauseous, I can't think straight, I'm getting some brain fog, my chest is getting really tight. And then if that's happening, then I'm going to start acting funny around my friends, and there's this cycle that would, the graphic here again. But, if I can reframe the thought into something, how does this new thought make me feel? Well, knowing like not all my friends hate me, well, my hands are, my body's cooling down, I'm not feeling as nervous, I can feel more comfortable around my friends. And then that's going to help our behaviors so that we can, have a good time with our friends instead of feeling nervous. But going even one step forward, we can look at gratitude exercises. If we want to talk about disciplining our mind to, be more productive so we can live more optimally, we can look at the research behind gratitude. And there was a research study that compared participants who wrote about negative experiences, and then a group that only received counseling, and then those who would write gratitude letters. And so the group that wrote the gratitude letters reported significantly better mental health 4 weeks and 12 weeks after their writing exercise ended. So it looked like it even had further benefits. So what I have my clients do, and what I like to do for myself, is have a gratitude journal. And you can buy some on Amazon that just have like 3 lines per day and just write 3 things that you're grateful for. And that is a really great step on helping your brain look for things that you're grateful for, because as you build the habit, as you're going throughout your day, I'm like, oh, I'm going to write about this in my gratitude journal. Oh, like, I wonder what's going to happen today that I'm going to be grateful for. And so you're more prone to look for those things than in times when you're not.
I just say to myself, I didn't find myself in the obituary this morning. It's going to be a great day. So
That's
I said, God, give me one more day. I'll help as many as I can. That's a gratitude day for you.
that really is though. So, we've talked about a lot here, and this really isn't an overnight thing. Rewiring your brain, like this really is a form of rewiring your brain. You're having to change how you think. You're having to challenge your thoughts, reframe your thoughts, question your thoughts. And there are a lot of tools out there online. I can send you the Unhelpful Thinking Styles chart. You can look at Dr. Amen's videos. Those are really helpful. You can look at the blog post to help reinforce this new mindset. But, a lot of times it is really helpful to have an outside opinion of someone coming in and saying, like, did you ever think about it this way? Or, like, it looks like right now I'm hearing a lot of black and white thinking, because our self-awareness can only go so far. We need an outside person, whether that's a teacher, a parent, a therapist, someone who can help you like see your blind spots. There's also neurofeedback therapy. I wanted to put this in here because from my own experience, as a therapist, I went into grad school. I had a lot of anxieties and worries. I had a lot of automatic negative thoughts, and I knew the CBT skills, the cognitive behavioral therapy skills, the ones that we're talking about here, like reframing your thoughts and questioning your thoughts, challenging them. I knew that stuff and I knew what to do, but my brain was wired a certain way that it was so stubborn that like I could do that and it wouldn't do that much. And so when I started working here, I did neurofeedback on myself, which is the brain training, and it helped me so much. I noticed a huge improvement where I could challenge a negative thought and I could listen to it so much easier and quicker than before, and it really improved my anxiety, not allowing worries to get to me as much. And so that was a huge benefit too. Medications is also another route people go to help with these big anxieties and worries and like overthinking. But with that being said, we love to open it up for questions and thoughts. We love having discussions with everyone. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see all of y'all's faces. Did you have anything else to add?
Cognitive flexibility, I think, is what we can get out of neurofeedback. A lot of times we go, and I work with a lot of veterans over the years, and all the instruction, all the PTSD sessions they go through and everything else, their brains really are too locked, and they can't take the information in and apply the information. The information's there, they just can't apply it. And so I've heard so many of them say after neurofeedback, they've got the ability now to apply everything that they've learned. And it's pretty amazing that it is in there. It just can't be applied. So there's some of the barriers that we see, in order to address those situations from, a lot of people go through a lot of trauma in this world.
Right.
And they continually almost repeat, rinse and repeat, circling the drain. And it's how can we break that pattern? And like I said, unless you've been in somebody else's head, you don't realize that the way you're thinking is creating your own problems. And so that can be helped. So do we have any questions or out there?
Yeah, y'all can feel free to, unmute yourself and ask questions or ask questions in the group chat. I'm going to go ahead and put our information in the group chat as well, as everyone's processing everything.
And with your experience, with all the ADHD people that you've hung out with for decades, you see this quite often, I'm sure. You're muted. You're muted. Pam, you're muted. There you go.
All right. It is interesting. I mean, you do see a lot of things. This especially reminded me of the one when we did the women's workshop a couple years ago, because I find in our adult support groups, it's the women that really are, I don't know if they're clinically depressed, but they're sad sometimes. And I think that's the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And they've heard all these things, you're smart, you should be doing better, all those things. And then when they're suddenly diagnosed, it's like, oh my God, if only we had known this, I might have gone to college, I might have done this, I might have done that. And so I do see that. But on a personal level, I'm really experiencing it right now. I turned 70 in December. And I think my brain is sort of the 60s were okay, but now it's kind of going, whoa, you're old. And it is kind of, you start to think about, end of life arrangements, clearing out the house so nobody else has to do it. And it's not exactly fun. And so I like your things, the steps and things, because I do think sometimes your brain just gets stuck and then you panic and then it gets worse. And my son has anxiety disorder, so I'm familiar with how things just get, bigger and bigger for him. But I'm starting to feel that a little bit myself with age. And it is interesting what we hear. And I think especially right now, every time you turn on the TV, there's some horrible thing going on. And my son and my husband are like, oh, we need to see the news. And I'm starting to think, no, I think I'll go watch spring baking championship or something. I can't fix it. So worrying about it isn't going to help. And I do find that a lot of people in our support groups just feel really burdened. It's like, it's just what's going on in the world, and it's a lot to carry around. So I think this is definitely a really timely topic. So I really enjoyed that.
I was looking at the news feed that was talking about the general level of happiness right now. And this is one of the first times that the younger generation, your generation and younger, they're one of the saddest generations because they can't buy a house, they can't do this. How can I ever succeed? And then that starts that negative thinking. There's just no way out. I'm stuck here. I got sold this bill of goods on this degree that I can't make enough money to move out on my own with. And so it's that part that we have to also realize at every generation, at every benchmark in life. And I hit 70 in August, Pam, so I'm right there with you. So it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've got a lot less to live than I've already lived for sure. And so again, we could get trapped in that thing. But I think the whole thing is, if we look at what we do, what we can appreciate, I've often told people, find 3 things beautiful in every day, whether it's the laughter of a child or whether it's whatever. And if you look for the beauty, you'll find your beauty. If you look for the good stuff, you'll find the good stuff. If you're only looking for the negative, man, there's a lot of that out there, and that will bring you down. And so that's part of the issues with where we end up going in that pattern of thinking. And, what makes the difference between an optimist and a pessimist? Truly, I had the opportunity to speak to one of the pilots that was shot down in Vietnam. He was a general at the time I met with him. And this was in this probably the late 80s. And I said, who did better in the prisoner of war camps and who did worse? He said, by far, the optimist did better And they, if they told themselves, I will survive, I'll get to the end of this, I will be reunited with my family, they're the ones that live. The pessimists, not so good. And I thought on top of that, he added, and the people who had faith in a higher power, because sometimes that's all you could do.
Yeah.
God help me with this because, it's above my level. And I think that, again, back to that optimism is what makes all the difference in the world. You can be living in the most hellish place, but yet find some sort of way to have peace. They say, money doesn't bring you happiness, because I've seen a lot of folks in a lot of poor countries that are very, very happy, and it's just your perspective. So I think that's part of this whole discussion today is how much our perspective, our outlook, our way we're turning things around, um, one more way to make it happen in our world, I think is what we all have to strive for. And so, good point. Abe, you had something to kick in here?
Well, what you were just saying reminds me of the book by Viktor Frankl, The Man's Search for Meaning.
I've got it. It's right down here in my book.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of that, because it really, and I always tell my kids, it's not what happens to us, it's how we react to what happens to us. And it's really all about mindset at the end of the day. It's the mindset that you take into each day, from the time that you open your eyes in the morning till the time you go to bed. It's all about your mindset. And, I approach pretty much everything as a dad. The fact that I have 4 kids and they're all different, 4 boys. 2 of them are grown. I've got a 34-year-old, a 30-year-old. I've got a 16-year-old who has autism, who's on the autism spectrum. And then I've got a 12-year-old. So they are all different. They all have different needs. They all have different ideas on how they're approaching. My 2 grown sons, how they approach their life. And so the thing that I always want them to see in me is my mindset, is how I approach life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you talk about aging, the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, that's what we're really leaving them as a legacy, is who we are as human beings. Not so much the material things that they have or will have, or whatever they get left from the parents. It's really the legacy. What kind of a person was this guy? What kind of a dad was he? What kind of, what were my beliefs? Those kinds of things. And it's all mindset. Whether you're dealing with your kids or your spouse or, work, coworkers, employees, whatever it is, it really comes down to your mindset. And so we have a choice each day how we approach things. We can be negative, because there's plenty to be negative about, or we can just not even think about the negative, and how are we going to get better? How can we get better? The essence of life is growth. So how can we get better, and how can we demonstrate to those around us that, yeah, things might be negative in the world, but it doesn't have to be in our own minds. It's what we bring, really is. And so that's kind of the way I approach that. So I appreciate this opportunity to listen in, because it's great for my kids.
Right. They say, Albert Bandura, a social scientist, reinforced this. He said 10% of our behavior is inherited, 90% is learned.
Yeah.
And so what you model to your children is what they learn. That's how they'll go through life. And it makes such a difference on how you face challenge as a parent. Yeah, and I think that's very, very important, very vital.
Absolutely.
It's in our way of thinking now. I'm trying to analyze this in children. When they run into an issue, they tend to want to just fall down on their diaper and cry and say, well, there's no way around it. Well, no, there's always got to be a plan B. Plan A doesn't work. And so that's the attitude you're talking about, is how, when we face a challenge, how do we make it to the other side? Mm-hmm. What do we come up with?
Well, I'm seeing a little like microcosm of the, I have a 17-month-old at home. And so I'm seeing a microcosm of all of that. The kind of mimicking side of things where it's like what I do and how I live and how I react is even at 17 months old, exactly how he's going to react.
Right.
And there are times where that's really good. And there are times where that is not so good.
You failed.
But it was really interesting listening to just think about the RAS and how you can kind of, like you were saying, hack it. But it really just like, I think you hear all the time, oh, negative thoughts snowball, or it just gets bigger and bigger and you kind of spiral downward. But I don't know if I've ever consciously thought about the opposite of that, right? Like you can snowball in a good way. You start that line of thinking, kind of like questioning the negative thoughts and like running through kind of that type of a list of questions that you're bringing up. It's really interesting because it's a whole different framework to think by. It's not, oh, I can only spiral downward or stay where I'm at or just like try to be better. It's like, no, I can snowball in a good way or I can snowball in a bad way. Let's snowball in a good way. So
Well, taking that a step further, I like to use physics in my work. Physics is something you can ground yourself in because it's a fact of it, and it has to work in every frame of reference from an atom to a universe. And I think I think people themselves can be black holes, for instance. They suck the life out of the room when they walk into it. There's always a negativity about them and everything else. And there's people that walk into a room and they light it up. They add energy to it and people respond to it. And a lot of that has to do with how they present themselves. We did a study actually on how your posture can change your mood. And well, there was a teacher of what they call them thespians in Oxford, England, theater teachers, and how they say, assume the posture of the one you want to become, and the mood will follow. And so it is true. And so even teaching those little things, maybe that's part of the ROS system, is that you straighten up, you get your head level, you put on a different look to you, and all of a sudden people start coming towards you. You have your head down and you're slumped over and you got this forlorn look on your face. People are going to avoid you, so it's kind of like, hey, you don't realize how much impact we have on others around us just based upon our presentation. And that fake it till you make it, I think really can work.
Yeah, I think so too, because I read something, I read a couple years ago and I forgot until I saw it again last week where even just like smiling, if you're not feeling happy, if you just smile or laugh, then it does something where it tricks your brain that you're actually happy. Have you heard
Yes.
of it?
I just told my wife the other day, I said, we need to go to a comedy club. We need just to laugh for an extended period of time, releases all sorts of good chemistry in your brain, lets it all down. Laughter is truly a good medicine.
Yeah, it is. I know. Now I'm checking my posture.
yeah.
Everyone on the call is just like sitting up high.
I got lost there. Sorry about that.
That's all
Glad
right.
to have you back.
Well, we're glad to have you back, Dave. But this is something that I think we need to know that we can affect. Talking about you being a father of a 17-month-old, my gosh, he's reading you tremendously. My father had a way to put it to us boys. I had 4 boys in our family also, Abe. And my father put it to us. He said, sons, when mama's not happy, nobody's happy. So don't you guys do anything to upset that woman.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You talk about, the milieu of the family. Oh my gosh, one person can destroy it. But then
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, even just kind of like to the point of like flipping that of like, don't do this. Instead, it's like, let's do this. Let's do something positive. So do something to make her happy, right? Not just don't make her unhappy. But even like kind of snowballing your brain in that way. And it's very interesting.
Well, we figured this out from an early age. So we understood that if we did something that she didn't expect positively, like take out the trash, if she didn't know we did it, we didn't get credit for it. So we'd take out the trash, but we'd leave the trash back where she could see that, we had taken out. Or if you unload the dishwasher, you got to keep that dishwasher open so she sees you got it. So we knew how to work this system pretty good. pretty inventive. You have to make sure it gets seen. It's tough growing up.
One thing I was
Liz?
going to add, oh, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, you're totally good, Pam. Go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking about, I can't remember his name, of course, but a few years ago, we had a man come in from California for our conference, and he'd written a couple of books on resilience. And to me, that kind of ties in, because he said even the kids that had really struggled, had a hard time in school, all of that later in life were farther along, happier, doing better
True.
if they had resilience. And I thought, that kind of is the same thing, as if you can make yourself improve your mood, improve your posture, whatever, and feel better about yourself and your situation. I think that's also part of it. You're more resilient because well, this isn't going to last forever, or I know how to handle this. And I think it's interesting how all of those things sort of go together.
It's very true. I had a set of twin boys, both in about 17 years old. And one of the twins was it's fraternal twins. One of the twins was very intelligent, never had to study. The other twin had to work his butt off at school. And during that entire time, and he found, he got trained in study skills and everything else. And when he got to St. John, which is very intensive school, and about the junior year, the smarter twin never had it. Finally, there was enough enough information he had to take in that he couldn't hold it all in his brain. You do get to that certain level, and he had no study skills, so he was crumbling. And the one that had worked his butt off, building that resilience, building that background, he did excel. And not that he was a straight A student, but he got through quite well and wasn't going through all the pains and arrows of suffering of his other brother that never had to put in any effort. So it was always it was something good for me to see the difference in what resilience, what struggle is good for. It does build your character, I think. And you got through it, and you're more proud of that than the person who had it easy. Like I say, we've got a lot of homeless geniuses out there right now. And I think that's what makes a difference.
Good point.
Well, that's the one thing that I always let my boys know, is that, if you're expecting things to be easy, then you will be disappointed, because you have to expect that there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be difficulties. There's always going to be struggles. There's always going to be, negatives that come up. You just got to get tough. You just got to really make the decision of what kind of a person you're going to be and how you're going to handle situations, however way they may come, and be prepared for it. Don't be surprised by it, and that's one thing I always try to get across to them. And I think it's good for them.
I wish there were more fathers out there like you, Abe, I tell you. We'd have less people in our office, but I'm not into job security.
Well, and honestly, I mean, I've got one that, we come and visit every so often. We come and see Alexandra, and, and he really enjoys it. And I'm all for that. My wife and I are all for that. I mean, we don't always have all the answers. And as parents, sometimes our children, just don't open up to us the same way as they would to someone else. And so at the end of the day, what we want is for them to be healthy, mentally healthy, just as much as physically healthy. We want them to be mentally healthy, because as I said before, there's lots of challenges. And so that's something we appreciate. Your office, we appreciate Alexandra. I mean, it's been great. And it's been so helpful. So, I mean, we're not always going to have the answers. That's one of the things, that it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. We don't have the answers. We don't have all the answers. So we have to have the humility to look for help, to seek out other people, to find the answers, because that's the most important thing, is to have the answers, find the answers. How are we going to find the solutions to whatever's going on? It doesn't have to be me solving everything for everyone. Find the solutions, find partners.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I appreciate y'all too. Y'all are really great parents, and he's really great too. And it does take a village, you know. It's like everyone has like their expertises and ways that they can, you know, contribute. And so I do like that village mindset.
I like how you put it. You want them to be mentally healthy. You didn't say you want them to be happy. Too many parents think their job is to make
Yeah.
them it's happy. It's not their job to make them happy. It's your job to
Yeah.
get them to be fully, highly educated, fully independent, tax-paying citizens, want to move out of the house and go out on their own. Then you've been a success, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
I wrap it.
Yeah, well, on that note, guys, we are gonna have to wrap up.
I'm looking forward to getting the recording because there was a lot to take in. And I'm sorry there
Absolutely.
weren't more people on here. I know it's just always hard to know how many show up, but I'm going to be sharing this one. I think a lot of people could benefit from
Well,
this.
thank you, Pam.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of times people do register and they just, you know, want to watch it later. But hopefully we do get a good turnout for next month too. We'll be sending out more information on that one to
We
everyone.
mentioned an open house, but she wasn't there.
Oh yeah, and then Pam, we're having a Coffee and Connection event at our center Saturday, April 6th from 9 a.m. to 12. I can send you out a flyer if you want to send it out to your group of people for
Alrighty.
it. But thank y'all everyone for attending. This was really fun.
Thank you very much.
Well, have a
Really
great
Yeah,
day.
thank y'all.
You too. Bye-bye.
Guys,
Have a good one now.
Glad to have you here, buddy.
Of
Bye.
course. Good to know y'all. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Just end it. That was good. That was